the air tonight after that Supreme Court decision that could change the college admissions process for a generation. The decision to gut affirmative action programs at 2 universities now having a ripple effect across the country. What it means for students applying to go to college. And in a new and exclusive interview with MSNBC, what President Biden means when he says this court is not normal. How he says he plans to fight back. Then a dramatic and emotional reaction from the school officer on the job when the Parkland shooting happened, found not guilty late tonight on charges he failed to do enough to stop the attack. Why this case could have reverberations for law enforcement across the country. And late tonight, the transgender influencer at the center of all that Bud Light controversy, speaking finally now for the first time what she's saying about the conservative backlash and her personal safety. And our newsmaker tonight, 2024 Republican presidential candidate Will Hurd joins us live one-on-one. How the newest entry into a crowded field plans to move the needle. That's later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and tonight we start with anger, with apprehension, and with some applause over a landmark move from the Supreme Court that's set to gut affirmative action in college admissions and probably change how schools handle who gets in. After this 6-3 decision you've been hearing about today from the justices, they're saying colleges and universities can no longer take race into consideration as a specific reason for admission. That's something a lot of schools have been doing for the last 4 decades. President Biden strongly disagreeing, saying in his view, this is not a normal court and pledging to fight.
I believe our colleges are stronger when they're racially diverse. We cannot let this decision be the last word.
On the other side of the aisle, you have former President Donald Trump praising the move, calling it a great day for America, he says, as the court steps into very complicated legal waters. So why did they do it? What's the rationale here? Chief Justice John Roberts arguing in the majority opinion that these programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina don't have clear enough objectives. They employ race negatively, he writes, involve racial stereotyping, and he says they don't have a meaningful endpoint. In other words, there's no real time limit here. But he also adds, and I want to quote because this is important, he says nothing prohibits universities from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affected that applicant's life, so long as that discussion is concretely tied to a quality of character or unique ability that this person can contribute to the university. So that brings us to what is at the heart of all this, right? All the questions that you probably have around what this means for people, maybe you, maybe your kids, maybe somebody you love applying to school. First, does this get rid of diversity in college admissions for these selective schools? No. Because as you just heard, while race cannot be a factor in admissions, schools can use other strategies to try to build diversity. 2, have other bans on race-conscious admissions, in other words, affirmative action bans, has that affected student diversity? Short answer, yeah. 9 states ban this kind of thing, and evidence shows that some of the schools in those states are now less diverse, they say. 3, should students of color still apply to these selective schools? Experts say absolutely. And 4, does this mean students cannot mention race when applying? No, you can still mention race. Students can still bring up racial or ethnic backgrounds in essays or elsewhere in the applications. There's a lot to get to tonight, so we have team coverage on all of it. Antonia Hilton is live for us on the ground at Harvard University. Our senior legal correspondent, Laura Jarrett, is joining us, too. But we want to start with Julia Ainsley, who is live outside the Supreme Court. And the biggest thing here, Julia, right? What does this mean? What is actually going to change at schools across the country because of this decision?
Well, Hallie, yes, you were able to look at 9 case studies across the country. I know that we've looked at data from the California system, the public schools in California, like Berkeley, where they've said that it's been really hard for them to have racially diverse student bodies because when you don't look at race as an independent characteristic, it's hard to be able to make factors, even if you try to make up for it in terms of geography, getting kids from poorer schools or try to go across maybe just the top 10% of all the high schools in a large geographic area. It's been really hard for them to still have racial diversity, and those schools have become whiter since that proposition passed in the mid-90s in California. Now, I will say that Chief Justice Roberts, in his majority opinion, said specifically he doesn't want schools to look at race for race's sake. In other words, he thinks that looking at trying to bring in a diverse student body, if you look at someone specifically because of their race, he says that's now off the table. That had the negative impact. But if they think that race might be a factor in their life, whether it's through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise, that's a part of the character. This is getting really in the weeds, Hallie, which means we could see other lawsuits open up later as these schools try to interpret what the Chief Justice is saying here. We also saw pushback from Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson in her dissent. Of course, she couldn't weigh in on the Harvard case because she had to recuse herself for that because of her affiliation with Harvard. But she said, you know what? It's one thing for the law to try to say that race isn't a factor, but race makes an immeasurable difference for Americans across their lives. And it is hard to see how that could possibly change. And she said this decision today will make America worse and not better.
Yeah, you've covered the dissent here, Julia, because we heard some strong words from the three justices, the more liberal justices dissenting. I can also hear, and I know the Supreme Court, I know that landscape well, I assume there's people out protesting, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, though. Not as many as you would think. There's actually a woman every single time there's a big decision who just brings music. I'm not even sure which side of the aisle she stands on, but that's her right to do so. There are actually fewer protesters here than we would have expected, and that's because there was a security incident earlier today. A man was actually arrested on the steps, and he had a suspicious package. That cleared so many people out of here. There were rallies scheduled. We were expected to hear from students on both sides of this issue. That actually all got pushed back, which is a shame because we really did want to hear from more of those people today, and that's why we're glad we have people like Antonia who are on the ground at schools across the country.
Julia Ainsley teeing us up quite nicely for our colleague, Antonia Hilton. Thank you, Julia. So, Antonia, with that to you, because we are hearing from the schools now involved at the center of the case, and the theme from them seems to be, hey, give us a beat. We got to figure out where we go next, given this ruling. Talk us through the reaction from them and from the students that you're talking to there at Harvard and elsewhere.
That's exactly right, Hallie. And these schools, they've had years to prepare for this moment. They may have been dreading it, but they can't say really that they've been caught off guard. And that's because this has been in motion. And from the very beginning, it was clear that from the folks who were launching this lawsuit, it was going to eventually wind its way up to the Supreme Court. And both schools released sort of similar statements today, essentially saying that they affirm their commitment to diversity, that it's still part of their values, and that they're going to be meeting, taking a look at their options and complying with this new precedent, essentially. And so, what the schools choose to do is going to, I think, be in conversation with students. In fact, I've been talking to kids, both current undergraduates and high schoolers who want to apply to Harvard in the fall, who have been trying to reach out to faculty and administrators and say, well, what are you going to do now? Are you going to get rid of legacy admissions to make more space for students of different backgrounds? Are you going to send people out into some communities? I spoke to one student earlier today who's the only Ecuadorian student in his class and says that, he wants to go out to his community in New Mexico and have conversations with students so they can still imagine themselves coming to top schools like this one. Take a listen to some of the conversations that I've had with kids here.
I hope that this is an opportunity for Harvard to step up in its recruitment, to step up in other efforts, but I think it would also be wrong of me to say that I'm not scared.
They're nervous because what we didn't see in any of those statements was a real clear plan yet, a firm commitment to what these steps are going to look like. And so students' attention, their anger is turning from the Supreme Court at the moment to their own faculty and administrators who they say they now need to hold accountable. And the concern is, when you look at just what happened even this spring, so just a couple weeks ago here at Harvard, students got their admissions, seniors in high school across the country, across the world. We already saw reductions in the number of Black, Latino, Native American, and Native Hawaiian students. And the fear right now is that we're going to see those numbers trend even further downward, Hallie.
Can you take a beat and pivot to the politics piece of this? Because there is a political context, a political backdrop here. We heard President Biden, we're going to talk about this more, come out and pledge to fight this. He says this can't be the way this country is. On the other side of the aisle, you see conservatives largely praising this. There are 2024 battle lines here.
Absolutely. And we're seeing them fall along the same lines that we see in the Supreme Court, of the conservatives, celebrating this, and liberals really mourning this and warning that this is going to have drastic changes in terms of access at institutions across the country, maybe even change workplaces in the future, because that's something that conservatives have signaled they'll go to next. We're already seeing that conversation happen at every level of the educational and sort of workplace pipeline in communities across the country right now. But I have to say, the politics also it's an interesting conversation to have with kids, too. This is a community that I know well because, full disclosure, I went to this school. And so I know the students, the pipelines that they're reaching out to. And they don't really fall along the same ideological lines. In fact, some of the most ardent supporters of affirmative action who are at Harvard are Asian American students who say that they are angry that conservatives have used them as a wedge. That's the language that I hear a lot, that they feel like they've been pitted against their black classmates, and they want their black classmates to know that they love the diversity of Harvard, that they don't want them to show up in the fall and feel like they are outcasts or no longer welcome here. Right. And so there's really an effort happening on the campus right now to bridge some of the political and cultural divides to make sure that, at least among the kids, the same kind of breakdown and feeling of a culture war that we're seeing across this country isn't going to be present when they come back to school, Hallie.
Antonia Hilton live for us there on the campus of Harvard in Cambridge. Antonia, thank you so much. Let me bring in senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett for us. Laura, let's take a step back, right? Bigger picture here. We've laid out this particular case. We'll talk about, and you'll talk about the cases to come tomorrow. Student loan debt, for example, free speech, LGBTQ plus rights case. But above all that, right, is the issue of that some see is the court itself, the makeup of the court. President Biden is talking about this. He was asked today, is this a rogue court? He says it's not a normal court. And then Nicole Wallace over at MSNBC asked him, OK, what did you mean by that? Explain that. Let me play that.
What I meant by that is it's done more to unravel basic rights and basic decisions than any court in recent history. And that's what I meant by not normal.
Stepping back, Laura, this is about faith and trust in the court as a whole for people in this country.
Yeah, and it comes at a time where certainly the court is facing a number of crises on the ethics front. And so you combine that with the fact that they overturned the right to an abortion last year, and they have now gutted at least what was previously understood as the rules of the road for the better part of 40 years for colleges and universities across the country. And so I think it's the combination of all of those factors. Having said all of that, Hallie, I think affirmative action is a tricky issue. And I say that because in this case, as Antonia mentioned, there was an allegation that the schools were actually discriminating against Asian students. And so it was, I think, a little bit more complicated than people realize, because the record on that issue was not particularly good for Harvard. And so I think if this had been a different kind of case with a different type of record, maybe it would have been a harder one. But it seemed as if the justices, in taking it, knew what they, sort of had at their fingertips. And obviously the decision speaks for itself.
Is there any reality? One of the other things that the president was asked about tonight is the potential for trying to push court reform, for example, changes to the court. Does that seem in the realm of possibility at all, in your view, Laura?
No. And I don't say that in sort of a cynical way, but the reality, as you know, Hallie, it comes down to numbers, right? On all of these things, if the president had the numbers in Congress to push through his agenda and the things that he wanted to get done, he would have it. But the court, those justices have lifetime appointment. There's nothing you can do about that. They sort of police themselves. And it's one of the former President Donald Trump's most enduring legacies, I think, will be putting 3 Supreme Court justices on that bench.
And it is a legacy that he is reminding people about tonight. Laura Jarrett, our senior legal correspondent, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll talk again tomorrow. Appreciate it. We've got some more breaking news tonight in this dramatic and emotional scene in a Florida courtroom. The school officer working at Parkland the day 17 students and staff were shot and killed, found not guilty after being charged with failing to confront the shooter during the attack. You see Scott Peterson there, head on the table, sobbing, shaking. This is the moment we're going to play for you that he found out he had been acquitted, found not guilty on all those charges against him. Watch.
The defendant is not guilty. So say we all, this 29th day of June 2023 at Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida.
He and his lawyer both incredibly emotional there. So were, by the way, others Relatives of the victims, survivors at Parkland for different reasons, obviously. Peterson, we're showing you here, was seen on school surveillance footage the day of the killings, staying outside the building as the shooting was happening. He'd been facing, among other charges, 7 counts of neglect of a child. NBC's Kathy Park is following this for us. This was such a huge story. There was outrage, I think, in many corners of the country when this video came out of Peterson staying outside as this attack was happening inside the building. Talk through how the defense convinced a jury that he did not fail to act here.
Yeah, Hallie, good to be with you. So shortly after this shooting took place in Parkland, Scott Peterson earned the nickname the Coward of Broward, and that is something that he couldn't shake for years. And the prosecution leaned into that, saying that he failed as a school resource officer. Instead of running toward danger, he stood back for more than 45 minutes. However, his attorney argued, look, he didn't know where the sounds, the gunshots were coming from, and they actually had a couple of witnesses throughout this trial who corroborated that information and also said that the communication failed that day, only adding to the confusion, and ultimately said that his client is not a criminal. And just a few moments ago, the jury obviously handed down the verdict. He was acquitted of all of the charges, and here's his reaction. Take a listen.
We've got our life back after 4.5 years. The only person to blame was that monster. There wasn't any law enforcement. Nobody on that scene, from BSO, Coral Springs. Everybody did the best they could. We did the best we could with the information we had, and God knows we wish we had more.
And Hallie, this trial lasted roughly 2.5 weeks, and it was extremely emotional, as you can imagine, for the family members, the students, the officers who had to take the witness stand and kind of had to relive this horror all over again, even though it's 5 years removed. And what's unique is that this is perhaps the first time a law enforcement officer had a trial linked to a school shooting. And also, Hallie, what's interesting about this case was that he was facing those felony child neglect counts. Well, in the state of Florida, you can only be convicted or found guilty of those charges if you are considered legally the child's caregiver. So perhaps that was kind of something that the jury was going back and forth with, but ultimately they found him not guilty on all of those charges. Hallie?
Kathy Park, live for us on this developing news tonight. Kathy, thank you so much. A lot of people, of course, watching this story. Something else a lot of folks are watching, what is happening with airports and travel tonight. Slightly less messy, but still messier than you want to see ahead of what might be a record-setting weekend of travel. And the busiest day of the 4th of July holiday set to be tomorrow. We're seeing lingering problems. Look at this, 600-plus cancellations, 4,500 delays. TSA is already warning people, hey, give yourself some extra time if you're flying. With the big reason for all these problems, the weather, intense storms, and now even more bad air quality from those wildfires up in Canada. Look at this, Chicago, Detroit, D.C. The National Weather Service says no end in sight, with a third of the people in this country under alerts. That includes almost every major metro area east of the Mississippi. You see the yellow, but you see the red there? That's the unhealthy level. That's the dangerous stuff. Detroit, right now, that city, it has the worst air in the world as we speak. George Solis is out for us at Newark Airport. Shaq Brewster is in Chicago. George, let's get to you first. We've seen these delays and cancellations. Is there going to be a domino effect into the weekend as people start to go out now for the holiday?
Yeah, Hallie, a lot of people hope that's not the case, of course, but you mentioned weather is, of course, always the wild card, and a lot of airlines playing catch-up right now after all of these delays and cancellations because of the weather and just because they simply just don't have the staffing. United here at Newark Liberty International, of course, having the worst problem with the most delays and the most cancellations. The airline, for its part, says, hey, we're working on this. We have all hands on deck. We're working on getting luggage to people that have been stranded. You have travelers here who are now booked through the weekend, so you're cutting into vacation time. You're cutting into time off. It's really just a mess. And, of course, on top of all that, you have those Canadian wildfires contributing to some of the visibility issues, so flights can't take off. It's really just a big mess coming on the heels of a very important weekend, a record-breaking weekend as we are expecting for travelers. Not just United, though. I talked to a traveler from Delta who was having time of his life overseas in Europe. He was expecting to come back with no issues, and little did he know he would have to take a few buses, a few planes, all in an effort to get back here to New Jersey. Take a listen to my conversation with him and about just how he's handling all of these delays that he's experienced.
I'm cooked. I'm done. I don't even want to get on the plane no more. I'm exhausted, seriously. I've never experienced this in my 38 years of living. Never experienced this flying.
So is it going to get better? Well, it's really anyone's guess, but you have a lot of frustrated travelers. They understand that, of course, this is going to be a very busy, record-setting travel period. We don't want to use the expression pack your patience, right, because we hear it all the time, but there really is almost no better analogy. So if we can come up with something better for a lot of these travelers who are irritated, I'm sure they would prefer to hear something better than that at this point.
It's banned.
But with this, it is so frustrating for a lot of these travelers, and they're just hoping at this point that they can get from point A to point B, and we are crossing our fingers for them because I myself experienced some delays with a newborn baby, and well, I shouldn't say newborn, 9 months, but nevertheless, still frustrating. So I feel for these people. So everyone that I see here, I'm just rooting for them to get to their destination, Hallie.
George Solis, you are a good person and a great reporter. Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on that. Thank you. Obviously, travel going to be messy this weekend, but also think about it. If you're going to be spending some time outside, you are probably getting worried about the air quality here. Shaq Brewster has more from Chicago, where they are seeing it really intensely.
Hi there. Well, for the third day in a row, folks here in Chicago are dealing with air that is unhealthy, but this is actually somewhat of an improvement from yesterday. I don't know if you remember the shot from yesterday where you could barely see the buildings behind me. Well, some of that has cleared up, and that's because here in Chicago, it's moved from very unhealthy air quality to unhealthy air quality. That's largely in part to the idea that the smoke continues to move out east, and that's why you're seeing in places like Detroit, Pittsburgh, you're seeing those foggy, hazy scenes like what we saw here in Chicago earlier this week. We know the impact that it's having is widespread. You're talking about events being canceled, different festivals being delayed. There was actually a baseball game today that was delayed an hour because of the air quality in that stadium. So what the message that you're hearing from experts is consistent. It's that if you are outside, you should try to limit your time outside. Don't participate in any of that strenuous activity. If you are in a sensitive group, you're an older citizen or have heart or lung conditions, then you should try to limit your outdoor activity, because the concern, of course, is that this air quality continues to get worse, especially as we head into this holiday weekend and the potential travel impacts that it could cause. Back to you.
Our thanks to Shaq Brewster for that. We got to get to some breaking news now. Check it out. This is a live look at Houston here, where officials have just announced in the last 2 or 3 minutes that a grand jury has decided not to indict rapper Travis Scott in connection to those deaths at Astroworld. Remember that back in 2021? I know we're going to show it to you here. I know you remember this. It was this huge concert, huge crowd of fans. They all started pushing against each other, pushing towards one another as Scott was on stage in this horrific crush that ended in the deaths of 10 people. 10 victims. You see them here on your screen. Thousands more people ended up hurt. I want to bring in Valerie Castro, who is monitoring this developing news as we speak. What are officials saying about this decision by this grand jury not to indict? And are we hearing anything from Travis Scott yet or no?
We are, Hallie, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But as you mentioned, this was a devastating event when it happened in 2021. Today, the Houston police chief said after several months, the criminal investigation finally wrapped up last week, and then the case was handed over to that grand jury today. The district attorney announced just a short time ago the grand jury found that no crime occurred. Take a listen to what she had to say just about 10 minutes ago.
Our job is narrow. It's to determine if this tragedy, this absolute disastrous, horrific event involved criminal activity by anyone, at the top, to the bottom, or in between.
Again, the grand jury determining that no crime occurred. If you remember, there were 10 people who died at this concert. The youngest victim was just 9 years old. The rest ranged in age from 14 to 27 years old. A medical examiner determining they all died from compression asphyxia in that crowd crush. More than 2,000 other people needed medical treatment after that concert. Travis Scott's attorney did issue a statement earlier today saying Travis Scott has been inaccurately and wrongly singled out despite stopping the show 3 separate times and being unaware of the events as they were unfolding. Hallie, that's the latest. We'll send it back to you.
Valerie Castro, thank you so much. We have a lot more to get to tonight in the show, including former Vice President Mike Pence and a surprise trip to Ukraine. Our reporter, the only network correspondent on the ground with him. She's going to join us in just a second with what he told her. Plus, new details tonight about how Madonna is doing after she was rushed to the ICU for a serious infection. That's coming up. A surprise visit to Ukraine today for presidential candidate and former Vice President Mike Pence, meeting with the Ukrainian leader and seeing for himself what this war has been like, visiting 3 Ukrainian cities that had been occupied by Russian troops. This visit's coming at a really important time in the war, a pivotal moment. But it's also significant because Pence now becomes the first Republican presidential candidate to meet with President Zelensky during the campaign. Unlike some of his Republican opponents, Pence has been clear about his support for the Ukrainians. Dasha Burns is joining us now. Dasha, you are there with Mike Pence. Let's talk about the politics of this trip, the position of him versus the position of his party, and what it's been like on the ground.
Yeah, Hallie, today was really a collision course of the 2024 presidential campaign and the war in Ukraine, and the way that the Republican Party has really shifted here, because today Mike Pence's visit, the former vice president's visit, really underscored his unique platform in the Republican Party. He is one of the few candidates that has made a very strong and very clear show of support, and really a resounding message that he sent today by actually coming to this country, spending a full day on the ground, speaking to people who have been impacted by this, visiting sites of Russian atrocities perpetrated on the Ukrainian people, and meeting with President Zelensky, and making clear that he really believes that the U.S. should play a leading role in supporting Ukraine in this war. But that's not necessarily where much of the rest of his party stands right now. You've got former President Trump, who has repeatedly praised and defended Putin. You've got Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has called this a territorial dispute. He's then walked that back, but he's still said that he doesn't really believe that the U.S. should play a big role in this. And you have also an NBC News poll showing that the majority of Republican voters don't want to support a candidate that wants to fund and send weapons to Ukraine. So I asked him about that. Take a listen to what he said.
I'm here because it's important that the American people understand the progress that we've made and how support for the Ukrainian military has been in our national interest. We'll let the polls and the politics take care of themselves, but for me, it was important to be here.
It'll be interesting to see, Hallie, is he's the first GOP presidential candidate to visit Ukraine. Will he be the last?
That's an excellent question, Dasha. I think we could all make some predictions here. We'll see what happens. Dasha Burns live for us tonight from Kyiv. Dasha, great work, great reporting, as always. Appreciate you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a suspect has been charged in the stabbing of a professor and 2 students during a gender issues class at a Canadian university. Police are calling this a hate-motivated attack. The suspect is facing dozens of charges, including aggravated assault. The victims being treated at local hospitals. Number 2, the CDC is just approving a new RSV vaccine for people over the age of 60, as long as they get a green light from their doctors. This is going to be available this fall. That's, a time when like RSV is big, COVID, the flu, all this stuff comes up. RSV can create some cold-like symptoms for most people, but for older folks, for seniors, it can cause up to 10,000 deaths a year. Number 3, one of the world's biggest superstars, Madonna. She is now back home and apparently feeling better after a couple days in the ICU for that serious bacterial infection. This is what a source close to her is telling NBC News. She's expected to make a full recovery, but she's still getting medical care after being forced to postpone her latest tour because of it all. Number 4, did you know there's a shortage of sriracha? Well, there is, and now it's going to be really expensive if you need this specific kind of sriracha. You've got some bottles selling for, brace yourselves, $70 on eBay, even $100 on Amazon. You know that this is like $5 typically, right? There is apparently this years-long shortage of the chilies used to make sriracha. That's why it is so expensive. That is quite a condiment right there, quite a condiment cost. Let's get to number 5 because Yankees pitcher Domingo Herman pitched a perfect game against the Oakland A's last night. This was amazing. No hits, no walks, 11-0 win over Oakland. The 24th perfect game in MLB history. He's the first Dominican-born pitcher to throw one and the first pitcher to do it in more than 10 years. Pretty incredible. So listen, late tonight, for the very first time, we are now hearing from the trans influencer at the center of that whole Bud Light boycott controversy. You remember the company was facing huge conservative backlash after a post that Dylan Mulvaney put up. She was showing off a personalized Bud Light can, and that led to this. People steamrolling cases of beer, people dumping them out in their trash cans, shooting at them even after this moment from Mulvaney. And when the company didn't defend Mulvaney, you then had LGBTQ plus advocates who started boycotting Bud, too. Well, now, after months of silence, Mulvaney is saying this tonight. Listen.
For a company to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse, in my opinion, than not hiring a trans person at all. What transpired from that video was more bullying and transphobia than I could have ever imagined.
Bud Light has taken a big hit business-wise since that March Madness promotion. Their sales are down like 25% in June compared to last year. And for the first time in a couple of decades, it is no longer the best-selling beer in the country anymore. PR and crisis management expert Molly McPherson is joining us now. What do you make of this new Mulvaney video? She is out now. She's saying essentially that she didn't post earlier because she was scared. She was scared of the reaction. She thought maybe the company would reach out. She says that never happened.
Yeah, it's not surprising that someone in the middle of a culture war would be that scared and worried about their safety. But what I found so interesting is that the company never reached out to Dylan Mulvaney, knowing likely that that's what she was experiencing.
What can Bud Light do at this point? We heard from the CEO of Anheuser-Busch just earlier this week, essentially saying they were going to try to help financially some of the wholesalers and distributors who have been hurt because of this boycott and this backlash. If you were advising them, Molly, what would you tell them to do?
Well, what is happening, that what Dylan Mulvaney is mentioning is being collateral damage in a culture war. And that's exactly what the CEO of Bud Light wants. He wants to distance the mistakes that they were making and the lack of accountability and make it about a culture war. It's something that's beyond them. If I were advising them, I would say we want to look at a framework that involves being more inclusive. But the trigger point was that I feel like Bud Light, to some people, felt that they were being forced out. The former VP of marketing had said that they didn't want to market to frat boys anymore. Now they need to be more inclusive and perhaps follow like a Chick-fil-A model, where even in their corporate purpose, they talk about God, but they're still quite inclusive in their customer base.
Molly McPherson, thank you so much. It's always good to have you on, especially when there is such a headline like this one. Appreciate it. When we come back, we are one-on-one with former Texas Congressman and 2024 presidential candidate Will Hurd for tonight's Newsmaker segment. But he's about to tell us about his long shot bid, plus how a muffin, yes, a muffin, helped out this dog. Does that seem weird? Well, we'll explain it. Just hang around. So tonight's Newsmaker now, where we go one-on-one with the people making headlines on the issues we are all talking about. And tonight, that is the 2024 race to the White House, which on the Republican side keeps getting bigger. Like every week, it seems like, with the latest entrant, former Texas Congressman Will Hurd. Congressman Hurd is joining us now. Congressman, thank you so much for being on your first interview with NBC News since declaring.
No, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be back with you. We used to do this a lot when I was in Congress, so I'm glad I'm back.
I remember those days. Lots to talk about. I am going to talk about policy with you, but I want to start with politics and news of day. And let me start with this news out of the Supreme Court that we led our broadcast with this evening. They're striking down of these affirmative action programs at 2 different schools. I saw the statement that you put out that read in part, with or without affirmative action, we are failing to prepare too many of our black and brown students for higher education. That's the problem. It is not clear to me from your statement whether you agree with what the court did or not. So, Congressman, is this a good day for the country or not?
Well, I think both of these things can be true, that we shouldn't discriminate for any reason, right, which is the decision that the Supreme Court made that was in line with some of their other decisions. But we can also talk about how too many black and brown kids are getting crappy educations that are not preparing them for education. Both of these things can be true at the same time. And the problem we should be focusing on is how do we improve the opportunities for these young kids. Income inequality is because of education inequality, and that's the problem that we should be focused on. What are our governors doing to improve access to education? How are we making schools cheaper? How are we making sure that our high schools there's choice and options for these kids? And so that's something that we should be focusing on, especially now with the need for our kids to be ready for jobs that don't exist today.
I hear you on the two things can be true idea, but let me ask you it this way. Do you support letting schools, colleges, universities use race as a factor in the admissions process?
So the decision that the court came down with, they said that this can be used when talking about their experience that race had. So yes, I agree with that opinion.
Okay. Let me ask you, I was just trying to get you a little bit nailed down on whether you agreed with the opinion or not. Sure. It sounds like you do. And so I want to ask you then about the campaign.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. To the campaign. Fox News has some new polling out today. Let's talk politics here. It shows former President Trump with a 34% lead over Governor Ron DeSantis, who's his next closest opponent. You did not score at all, a single point in that survey. Your campaign is only like a week old, so I get that point of it. I've been reading up on you, obviously, and you've been quoted as saying when you ran for Congress that you don't need to think I can win. You just need to think I'm not crazy. So explain to people, why should people now think that your fairly long shot candidacy at the moment is not crazy?
Well, look, the fact that I'm a dark horse candidate, I completely recognize that. And yes, these national polls, are reflective of a snapshot in time. But we should have learned back in 2016 that these national polls aren't necessarily reflective of what's happening at a state level. And they also don't reflect the kinds of people that are coming out to vote. Here's the things that I do know. 6 out of 10 Americans do not want Donald Trump to be president, and 7 out of 10 Americans do not want Joe Biden to be president. Only 23% of Americans vote in primaries because the other 77% are sick and tired of everybody and don't like any of the options that they have. So my long shot candidate, what you want to say is to appeal to those people. And the way do you do that? In a place like New Hampshire, where you can go and they expect you to talk to them, not be crazy, and get out and let them know who you are, you have a chance.
You will not sign a Republican loyalty pledge, meaning you will probably not be on the debate stage because that is one of the requirements that the party has put in place. How do you expect people in New Hampshire, in Iowa, in South Carolina to get to know you if you're not having that? Granted, it's a national platform, but it's a big one. A lot of people watch.
Sure. A lot of people do watch, but it's not the Super Bowl, right? And so how do you get more people to know who you are? You show up. I've just been in the North Country the last couple of days, spending a lot of time on the ground. There's a little thing called a digital media that people pay attention to. You do things like be on the news like we're doing here today. But here's the bottom line. I can't lie to the American people just to get a microphone. And I'm not going to do that. And we shouldn't be comfortable with any of our candidates who are interested in doing something, but they may change their minds later. I'm not going to support somebody like Donald Trump. I spent a decade of my life collecting information, protecting our country. And for someone who's so cavalier with the most important secrets in our country that could get in the wrong hands, could lead to the loss of life, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to lie to the American people about in order to be able to get on the debate stage and talk about what I hope that the vision for the future should be.
So if he's convicted of any of the federal charges against him, you won't pardon him?
Would I pardon him? No, like the fact that people even talking about that, it's like, let's get through the case. Like, that's just insane that we're having those kinds of conversations right now. The fact is, we need someone who's not afraid of Donald Trump, but who's also putting forward a vision of the future. And you've talked about in your show today, all the challenges that we're facing as a country. We're dealing with generational defining challenges. Those are the things that we should be talking about, not whether or not you should keep documents or lie about keeping documents in your bathroom.
Let me ask you, you talk about the issues facing the country. Some of them are international issues. You are obviously former CIA officer. You uniquely understand the ramifications of international conflicts. There are a number of your Republican colleagues who want to shut off the aid faucet to Ukraine. You have a different perspective. You do not. What don't your Republican colleagues understand, in your view, about this issue?
Well, they lack the experience of understanding second and third order effects. You know, my entire adult life has been involved in national security in some form or fashion. And they also don't understand that the United States of America post-World War II built an international order that benefits us, that has led to the United States of America having a quality of life that is the envy of the world. If we do not protect that, it's going to hurt us. And Ukraine is the perfect example. We should be doubling down in our support to the Ukrainians in order for them to end this war. And when I say end the war, it's not go back to the lines in the territory lines in February. It's go back to the territory lines many years ago before the Russians invading the first time. So we should be helping the Ukrainians push the Russians out of Crimea and all the Donbass.
There's another issue where you do not see eye to eye to some of your Republican colleagues here. You have represented a border state, Texas, obviously. I know that immigration is important to you. There's this new proposal out from one of your competitors, Governor Ron DeSantis. It includes finishing the border wall, potential military action in some instances, bringing back that controversial Remain in Mexico policy. You have ideas that include a long-term plan to streamline legal immigration, to increase deportations, to provide more aid to Latin American countries. In other words, some policies that seem more similar to what a Biden administration might put in place. What makes you think the GOP primary voters are going to side with you in the somewhat less aggressive approach than what we've seen from Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis?
Well, let me start with Joe Biden has done a lot of things wrong on immigration, and you're never going to see a plan come forward from him on streamlining immigration because he had the chance to do this. Look, unfortunately, many of my colleagues, Ron is trying to follow what Donald Trump did, make a lot of promises and not deliver when it comes time. For me, the goal should be achieving operational control of the border. I know how to do it. I represent the largest border in Texas and in Congress. I've been up here in New Hampshire touring the northern border, which is slowly becoming a problem. It's not of the same magnitude that we're seeing in the South, but we have the opportunity to prevent that from happening by working with our folks in Canada. And here's what many of my colleagues or folks in this race don't understand. Every single mile of the border is different from every other one. And you also starts with stop treating everybody that's coming into this country as an asylum seeker. Wanting to come get a better paying job is not a reason for asylum. This is a policy that Joe Biden continued, but it got started under Donald Trump. And so will people here in the Republican Party know? Look, people appreciate honesty. They appreciate real solutions to real problems because everybody understands we're living in complicated times and we need common sense.
Former Texas Congressman Will Hurd, current Republican presidential candidate, thank you very much for being on. Hope to talk with you again soon. Appreciate your time. Coming up here on the show, more violence in France tonight with protests all across the country over a police killing of a teenager. Those demonstrations getting bigger. We'll tell you how the government's responding with our team live in Paris. Plus, the iconic jewelry store building that caught fire tonight. What we know about the damage at the newly remodeled Tiffany flagship coming up. To France now, where tonight already 5 people have been arrested with a third night kicking off of potentially violent protests across the country after a 17-year-old was shot and killed by police during a traffic stop. Transportation is shutting down in some parts of Paris. There's a curfew overnight in a town near the capital. French prosecutors today say the officer who fired the deadly shot has now been charged for homicide. Huge crowds took to the streets again today. Look at this. Look at the people here. Tear gas from police. There are signs translating to police kill and justice for Nael, the teen who died. Tonight, nearly 4 times the number of police officers are going to be out versus last night to try to stop some of what we've seen, like fires on the street, cars flipped over, fireworks exploding. All of it sparked from the video that you're seeing here. Police officers leaning into the driver's side of this yellow car. One officer fires as the car pulls away. It later crashes into a post nearby. That teenage driver died at the scene. Matt Bradley has made his way to Paris. He is live for us tonight. Matt, fill us in on what you're seeing and where this goes.
Yeah, well, Hallie, this protest was called by the mother of Nael. She actually wanted this to be what you'd call in French a white protest. That means it was kind of more of a solemn, quiet, almost like a funeral procession. It ended up being anything but. We saw violence in cities and towns throughout France, particularly in Marseille, where you mentioned those people were arrested, and in the town of Nanterre, which is where I just was. That was where the incident just took place. Now, this is a situation that it seems to have kind of stopped right now. The formal protests, as far as we know, have ended today. And the activists that I spoke to said there's nothing officially planned coming up tomorrow or the day after. The funeral for Nael is going to be on Saturday. That could result in some protests. But for the time being, it looks as though the formal protests are over. But this means that the rioting could still very much continue. We could still sort of see that style of violence that we've seen for the last 3 nights in a row in cities and towns throughout the country. That was, again, why the police here in France deployed some 40,000 officers to hotspots around the country, just anticipating what was to become an outbreak of violence. And we saw that in Nanterre. You're seeing those videos, people setting fire to trash cans, to cars, to buildings. And this is something that is probably going to continue as this anger refuses to simmer down. Hallie?
Matt Bradley live for us tonight in Paris. Matt, keep us posted, please. Thank you. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day. And because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau today, San Diego is opening up its first safe sleeping site. You see it here. The mayor says it's meant to give people experiencing homelessness a safe place to rest, to connect them with services. It comes after the city passed a homeless camping ban. The new site can hold more than 100 tents. Another site with 400 tents is set to open in the fall. Out of our Northeast Bureau, the flagship Tiffany store in New York caught fire today. Look at this smoke coming out of the building. You can see firefighters spraying it down. The fire department says it's out now and nobody was hurt. Tiffany said earlier it was an electrical fire and that it planned to open the store later in the day. Keep in mind, this is a flagship that just went through like 3 years of renovations and opened not too long ago. And out of our Western Bureau, check this out. Arizona police rescuing a dog stuck in a canal. How did they do it? With a pumpkin muffin. The dog wouldn't come to him, so another officer gave a freshly baked muffin. That did the trick. Here comes the dog, sniffing it, nibbling it. German Shepherd gets out and then gets more muffins. Still to come. After years of delays and years of setback, you've got Virgin Galactic putting its first paying customers right on the edge of space. We're live with what we're learning about this flight and the future of space tourism next. Virgin Galactic doing what it's been trying to do for something like 20 years today, which is take paying customers to the edge of space. Check this out. Pilots taking a team funded by the Italian Air Force 50 miles up into the sky. It took about 90 minutes. Listen to how one of the passengers described it.
From the takeoff to release, it's like a normal airliner. But the 20 minutes after the release was unbelievable. The acceleration, the climb, and suddenly the microgravity.
This is how they did it, right? You can see this specially designed plane. It pulls along this spacecraft until they get up to the edge of space, get weightless, essentially. Seems like a lot of work for just a couple of minutes up there. But how much would you pay for a chance to get out to nearly outer space? Well, something like 800 people, the company says, are willing to pay anywhere from $250,000 to $450,000 per seat. They've got a backlog. Morgan Brennan is joining us now from near the launch site in New Mexico. Talk us through it, because this is a big deal for Virgin Galactic. They're hoping for more. What was it like?
So you just pointed to the space plane. It's actually right behind me here in the hangar. This is VSS Unity. This is the plane that flew to the edge of space earlier today. Major milestone for Virgin Galactic, because this has been 19 years in the making since Sir Richard Branson founded this company. Today represented the first fully commercial revenue-generating space flight for this company. It kicked off what is commercial service now that has been delayed and has been long anticipated. You just mentioned it. There's an 800-person backlog. This first mission, a lot of their business is focused on space tourism, but they also have this bucket that is focused on research and government. And today's first commercial mission was really focused on that second bucket, with three paying passengers tied to the Italian Air Force, who went up to the edge of space. 53 miles was the altitude, so just past the edge of where the U.S. defines the start of space, for about 4 minutes of weightlessness, where they conducted a flurry of scientific experiments and did research before then strapping back in inside the space plane, gliding back down and landing on the runway. So this was a milestone for the company. It's also a milestone for this new era of commercial human spaceflight.
Talk about that. Talk about the so-called space race, the idea that this kind of like space tourism is starting to, truly no pun intended, take off. And also about, like, you know, the safety procedures in place. Any potential risks here?
So, I mean, there's always a risk with flying to space, right? But the company has spent a lot of time and a lot of money working on those safety aspects. There is a multi-day training process that future astronauts go through before they actually take this trip. There have been redesigns, there have been updates and refurbishments to the spacecraft and its mothership as well. And this is something I actually asked CEO Michael Colglazier about in an exclusive interview earlier today, because for clear and obvious reasons, given what we've seen unfold with this tragedy around that submersible tied to the Titanic last week, this idea of so-called adventure travel, including spaceflight, has been under a lot more scrutiny. And he basically said, look, we're building on 6 decades of human spaceflight, and we are regulated. The FAA, officials from the FAA were here for the spaceflight today. There's a very, very strong emphasis on that safety. They haven't seen any impact to demand in terms of that customer base in the past few weeks either.
Morgan Brennan, it is fascinating. Thank you for being there from the launch site live for us tonight. Really appreciate it. That does it for us for this hour. We've got more coverage picking up right now. We are coming on the air tonight after a Supreme Court decision that could change the college admissions process for a generation. The decision to gut affirmative action programs at 2 universities having this ripple effect across the country now. What it means for students applying to go to college. And in a new exclusive interview with MSNBC, what President Biden means when he says this court is not normal. How he says he plans to fight back. Then, dramatic and emotional reaction from a school officer on the job when the Parkland shooting happened. Found not guilty late tonight on charges he failed to do enough to stop the attack. Why this case could have reverberations for law enforcement across the country. Then, we're just getting new details tonight around that Chinese spy balloon. Remember that? The tech we now know it was using to spy on us, according to officials, and how U.S. engineering might have made it possible. That's coming up. And late tonight, the transgender influencer at the center of all that Bud Light controversy, speaking finally for the first time, what she's saying now about the conservative backlash and her personal safety. Hey, I'm Hallie, and tonight we start with anger, with apprehension, and with some applause over a landmark move from the Supreme Court that's set to gut affirmative action in college admissions and probably change how schools handle who gets in. This is after that 6-3 decision from the justices, saying colleges and universities can no longer take race into consideration as a specific reason for admission. That is something schools have been doing for like 4 decades now. President Biden strongly disagreeing, saying in his view, this is not a normal court, and pledging to fight.
I believe our colleges are stronger when they're racially diverse. We cannot let this decision be the last word.
On the other side of the aisle, you have former President Donald Trump praising this move, calling it a great day for America as the court steps into some pretty complicated legal waters. So why did they do it? What is the rationale? Chief Justice John Roberts, he argues in the majority opinion that these programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina don't have clear enough objectives. He says they employ race negatively. They involve racial stereotyping, he says, and they don't have a meaningful endpoint. In other words, there's no real time limit. But he also says this, and I want to quote here. He says nothing prohibits universities from discussion of how race affected the applicant's life, so long as that discussion is concretely tied to a quality of character or unique ability that this person can contribute. And that brings us to what is at the heart of all this, right? All the questions around, okay, what does this actually mean in the real world? What does this mean concretely, maybe for you or your kids or somebody you love? One, does this get rid of diversity in college admissions altogether for selective schools? No. It does not, because as you just heard, even though race can't be a factor in admissions, this doesn't stop schools from using some other strategies to try to build diversities. Two, have other bans on race-conscious admissions, have other affirmative action bans affected student diversity? Short answer here is yes. 9 states in this country already ban affirmative action, and evidence shows that some schools in those states are now less diverse, they say. 3, should students of color still apply to these selective schools? Experts say absolutely. That's the only way you can really get diversity in these places. And 4, does this mean that students cannot mention race when applying? No. You can still talk about race. Students can still bring up racial or ethnic backgrounds, like in the essay or elsewhere in the applications. We've got every angle of this covered with our NBC News team out, including NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos, who is joining us. But I want to start with Antonia Hilton, who is live for us on the ground at Harvard University. Antonia, talk nuts and bolts here, right? What does this actually mean moving forward as schools are looking at this, assessing this decision, and trying to figure out what it means for them?
Hey, Hallie. Well, first, it represents a massive historic shift. And of course, it targets UNC and Harvard's admission systems and is going to dismantle the way in which they've looked at race as a factor in admissions for years, for decades now. But this is going to have an impact, particularly at elite schools where, you know, they are not accepting all of the students or large portions of the students who apply year after year. Those are the schools where you're going to see the most changes here. And you referenced this, you know, the UC system, California system, and what we saw happen there. And that's causing a lot of the anxiety here for faculty and administrators as well as students. They point to that example consistently. What we saw happen more than 2 decades ago on that system was that in the immediate aftermath, about a 50% reduction, a plunge in the numbers of the enrollment of minority students there. And as they've tried to implement programs, efforts, they've gone out into different communities like Black communities and Latino communities in California to try to bring those people back to the table. It's been very hard for them to get them back to the levels at which administrators really wanted to see in that system there in California. So for years now, Harvard administrators have been preparing for this moment. That's part of why you've seen them move away from things like the SAT and ACT scores, standardized testing, that they believe has limited opportunities for low-income students who can't afford, say, fancy test prep. You're also going to see a lot of conversation around legacy admissions. In other words, admissions that show preference to students who have family members who've attended schools like Harvard or who have parents who work at schools like Harvard. So a lot of people are going to be pushing to make a lot of changes. Right now, they haven't committed to any certain or particular plan, but they are having a lot of conversations behind closed doors. And you can expect us to see these changes kind of roll out over time.
Right. Tell us more about what you're hearing from students, Antonia, the people you're talking to.
You know, they also had a lot of time to prepare for this moment, Hallie, but the word that keeps coming up is gut punch, disappointing, that they're reeling and they're still processing this news. And the fear, it's less about themselves and really more about generations of kids coming up behind them. I spent some time today, for example, with a kid who is the only Ecuadorian student in his entire class, and he comes from a particular community in New Mexico, and he was sort of thinking about, well, how do I go back and talk to some of my younger siblings? How do I go back and talk to kids who come from the school that I come from, who don't normally see themselves at a school like Harvard? How do I still get them to apply? Are they going to receive a negative message now? Take a listen to the president of the BSA, that's the Black Student Association here, a student named Angie, talking about how she's processed all of this.
I think it would affect everybody. Like, I can't really separate my blackness from myself. So when I tell stories and when I, you know, tell Harvard who I am today, it 100% involves race.
Harvard and UNC have released statements today that are pretty similar in terms of their content, essentially saying that they're going to take some time, take a step back, and start to evaluate how they can comply with this new precedent, while also continuing to foster diversity, to have their campuses reflect their values. And so the door is really open here, Hallie, for these schools to try to plan what the pipelines are they're going to use to still build those classes. But you might open the door to more lawsuits when you do some of that, too. We've already heard some attorneys talk about the possibility for that today. And so this might not be the end of the battle over diversity in schools and workplaces and affirmative action in America.
Yeah, that's right. There are more threads to pull on here, Antonia. Thank you very much. Antonia Hilton live for us from Cambridge, the campus, of course, of Harvard University. I want to bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. And Danny, there has been a dissent, obviously. It was a 6-3 decision. And in one of the dissents we saw from Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, she says, in a quote that's getting some attention, with "let them eat cake obliviousness," today, she says, the majority pulls the ripcord and announces colorblindness for all by legal fiat. She says, but deeming race irrelevant in law does not make it so in life. Talk about the road ahead here. Antonia sort of laid it out, but pick up that piece of the puzzle here. What kind of a ripple effect this could have?
On the one hand, universities essentially can no longer consider race in the application process. But on the other hand, consider that at oral argument, the universities themselves argued to the justices that as it is, they barely consider race in an application. So little that often race is just a triage element on the front end, and then the ultimate decision, race has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not the applicant gets in at all. So there could be an argument that because the Supreme Court over the years, starting with Bakke, when they said that, hey, a quota, a race-based quota, that's not allowed. And over the years, they increasingly said, OK, no, you can do it even less. You can consider race less and less, to now where we were today in this case, where the universities were literally arguing that they scarcely consider race as it is. So if those race-based race consideration policies are unconstitutional, where they don't hardly use race at all, then going forward, it may be the case that admissions policies, while it may be a lot of administrative change, aren't really going to change all that much. We're really going to have to see what the numbers are in terms of diversity, numbers as to minorities and other representation on campus.
Take a step back here, Danny, right? Because this is affirmative action. We're talking about this case, obviously potential for generational change. But when you look at the structure of the institution of the Supreme Court as a whole, you have President Biden, when asked if this is a rogue court, saying it is not a normal court. He had this exclusive live interview with Nicole Wallace over on MSNBC just in the last couple of hours, I think. I want to play how he explained what he meant by that. Listen.
What I meant by that is it's done more to unravel basic rights and basic decisions than any court in recent history. And that's what I meant by not normal.
It is a strong phrase. It is strong words from a sitting president to talk about this other branch of government like that, especially when it comes to the court, right? Long a respected institution, but the faith and trust in the court has declined over the years.
I mean, I don't think any president should cast doubt on the judiciary, whether Democrat, whether Republican. And so if Biden's saying that this is not a normal court, I mean, he's entitled to his opinion, but he is the president of the United States. And to the extent he says that the court today unraveled rights, in a sense, that's not technically accurate, if only because there were no rights at play. There was a constitutional test to ensure that the Due Process Clause, the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment was not violated. There was no fundamental constitutional right to admission to any of these universities. Instead, the court today just applied an increasing precedent. In other words, the court had been whittling away at this for years. So this is really not a surprise. I don't think anybody was surprised that the court concluded that the current use of race in admissions, and by the way, this is only in higher education. This is almost a narrow carve-out, that this use of race as applied is unconstitutional. In fact, Grutter wasn't even technically overruled, for whatever that means.
Danny Savalos, thank you very much for being with us tonight. I know it's been a long day for you. We'll talk again, I'm sure, tomorrow. More breaking news tonight from down in Florida with a dramatic and emotional scene in court. The school officer working in Parkland the day 17 students and staff were shot and killed, breaking down, you see it here, sobbing, shaking, after being found not guilty on charges he failed to confront the shooter during that attack. Look at this moment.
The defendant is not guilty. So say we all this 29th day of June 2023 at Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida.
Peterson was seen on school surveillance footage the day that the attack happened, staying outside the building as the shooting was going on inside. Here's what he said in the moments right after that verdict was announced out in the hallway. Watch.
We've got our life back after 4.5 years. The only person to blame was that monster. It wasn't any law enforcement. Nobody on that scene, from BSO, Coral Springs. Everybody did the best they could. We did the best we could with the information we had, and God knows we wish we had more.
He'd been facing 7 counts of neglect of a child, among other charges. NBC's Kathy Park is following this for us. This moment when it came out that Peterson had been outside when the shooting was happening at Parkland, I think is a moment seared into the minds of so many people, the shooting itself. Talk through how the defense convinced a jury that Peterson did not fail in his duties, and what else we're hearing now, including from some of the families of the victims.
Yeah, Hallie, I mean, shortly after that surveillance footage that placed Peterson outside the school building came out, the fallout was quick. He earned the nickname the Coward in Broward, and prosecutors essentially leaned into that throughout this trial, saying, look, this guy is a school resource officer. He should have gone in to stop the bloodshed. Instead, he stood back for more than 45 minutes, and that is what they tried to convince the jury to believe. And they had surveillance footage, hours of surveillance footage that they presented as evidence throughout this trial. However, his attorney argued, look, there were a lot of other people around, and there was some confusion when it comes to the communication, adding to the chaos. And there were other witnesses who corroborated the fact that it was unclear where those gunshots were coming from. And ultimately, he said Scott Peterson was not a criminal. And Hallie, you saw the emotions play out today in court today, but it was an emotional trial, an emotional 2.5 weeks, because you had family members, you also had students and other officers who took the stand. And just moments ago, we heard from a family member forever touched by this tragedy. Take a listen.
I'm going back to my life. That's what he said, which is something that Joaquin will never be able to say. But we did not mark a precedent. This accountability was a need, and we just wasted another opportunity. The system failed again.
And Hallie, we should point out that this case was getting a lot of attention because perhaps this is the first time a law enforcement officer stood trial linked to a school shooting. So if Scott Peterson had been convicted today, this could have had a huge ripple effect when it comes to possibly prosecuting other officers and their response time to other mass shootings. Hallie?
Kathy Park, thank you very much for that. Let's get a check of what's happening at airports and travel around the country. It is slightly less messy, but still messier than you'd want it to be ahead of what could be a record-setting weekend to travel. And the busiest day of the 4th of July holiday, tomorrow. That's the expectation. You can see what it looks like tonight. 600-plus flights canceled, another 4,500 delayed. With the TSA already warning, hey, give yourself some extra time. The big reason for all of these issues, it is a domino effect from the bad weather we've been seeing around the country. And now even more bad air quality after smoke is drifting in from those wildfires in Canada. Look at Chicago and Detroit and D.C. A third of the people in this country are under alerts. That includes nearly every major metro area east of the Mississippi. You see that red? That's where the unhealthy air is. Detroit right now has the worst air quality in the world. You can make out the skyline, but boy, you got to think folks do not want to be breathing that tonight. Tom Costello is out at Reagan Airport outside Washington. Shaq Brewster is in Chicago. Tom, to you first. Expectation, right, as there are delays and cancellations, our colleagues, our family members, our friends caught up in it, and what it means for this very busy weekend ahead.
Well, this is, at the moment, the busiest week of the entire summer going into the 4th of July. And you mentioned we're expecting 2.8 million people to fly tomorrow. That will be a post-2019 record, the highest since November of 2019. Listen, for the most part right now, most airlines have managed to get back on schedule, back on track, and they're not dealing with problems. It's United Airlines that continues to struggle. In fact, yesterday, the day before, and the day before, they canceled 25% to a third of their flights. Today, they're down to 14% canceled. Now, you may this is not one reason for this. You may recall that earlier in the week, they blamed air traffic control shortages for their issues over the weekend. And then United had its own operational meltdown, not enough flight attendants. They got hammered with bad weather in Newark, and then every one of their hubs struggled. And that's where we are right now. The cities, the airports with the most delays are all United Airlines hubs. Newark Airport, Denver, Houston Intercontinental, as well as SFO, San Francisco International, and Chicago. So all of them are still dealing with the ripple effect from this weather and then the meltdown. United's trying to get back on track, and they swear things should be better by the next couple of days.
Well, a lot of people crossing their fingers and hoping that's the case. Tom Costello live for us at Reagan, your second home this week. Thank you, Tom. Shaq Brewster is in Chicago, where they are getting hammered by that bad air quality. He's joining us now.
Hi there. Well, for the third day in a row, folks here in Chicago are dealing with air that is unhealthy, but this is actually somewhat of an improvement from yesterday. I don't know if you remember the shot from yesterday where you could barely see the buildings behind me. Well, some of that has cleared up, and that's because here in Chicago, it's moved from very unhealthy air quality to unhealthy air quality. That's largely in part to the idea that the smoke continues to move out east, and that's why you're seeing in places like Detroit, Pittsburgh, you're seeing those foggy, hazy scenes like what we saw here in Chicago earlier this week. We know the impact that it's having is widespread. You're talking about events being canceled, different festivals being delayed. There was actually a baseball game today that was delayed an hour because of the air quality in that stadium. So what the message that you're hearing from experts is consistent. It's that if you are outside, you should try to limit your time outside. Don't participate in any of that strenuous activity. If you are in a sensitive group, you're an older citizen or have heart or lung conditions, then you should try to limit your outdoor activity, because the concern, of course, is that this air quality continues to get worse, especially as we head into this holiday weekend and the potential travel impacts that it could cause. Back to you.
Our thanks to Shaq for that. We've got some developing news to send to us here, with NBC News confirming tonight that Chinese balloon, remember that one that flew across the U.S. or drifted across the U.S. this year? It did have U.S. technology on it, according to 3 sources familiar with the early findings of an investigation. But earlier today, the Pentagon press secretary said officials do not think the balloon actually got any key information. Listen.
We believe that it did not collect while it was transiting the United States or flying over the United States. And certainly the efforts that we made contributed.
You'll remember the U.S. shot down that balloon back in February, and that was just another log on the fire, you could call it, between U.S. and Chinese relations. Beijing said the U.S. overreacted to what it said was just a civilian airship at the time to research weather that had just happened to have flown off course. Courtney Kuby is joining us now. Courtney, you are tip of the spear for this new reporting. Bring us up to speed. Apparently, the stuff on this balloon was like off-the-shelf stuff from the U.S. What does that mean?
Yeah, it means that you or I could actually buy the kinds of equipment or component parts that were used on the spy balloon off the shelf, so at a basic retailer, and use it. What that means to our viewers is, remember, President Biden recently said that there were 2 boxcars full of spy equipment or surveillance equipment on this Chinese spy balloon. Well, that means that among all of that Chinese sensitive surveillance equipment that was there was also some commercial equipment. Now, what we don't know, Hallie, is exactly what was that equipment doing? Was it actually being used in some way to spy on Americans, to gather information, to take pictures, to get video, maybe even to listen into sensitive communications? We just don't know that. Now, the officials we spoke with said that there was sensitive Chinese surveillance in addition to this commercially available equipment and component parts that was on there. But the reality is we just don't exactly know yet it also does not seem that this equipment was anything that the Chinese may have purchased illegally, Hallie.
Can you just help a layperson understand it, Court, right? Like, let's just, like, hashtag real talk here. Because, okay, I understand a lot of questions still about what they got, what they wanted to use it for, et cetera. It wasn't a weather balloon, right? Like Beijing said?
Right.
We know that.
It was not. Yeah, it was definitely it was definitely there to surveil, to spy. The reality is we still also have no idea exactly what it was able to get, though. We know that it certainly was doing things that are consistent with gathering information, like loitering over sensitive U.S. military and intelligence sites, doing figure eights as it was going over it. We know that it had the ability to not only take pictures, but also to get sensory information, to essentially listen to communications on the ground. But we really don't have a sense beyond this very basic denial from the Pentagon today that it wasn't able to collect. But that's a very vague term. So, I mean, believe me, we are trying to dig in as much as we can to try to get a better sense of exactly what this balloon was doing and what it may have been able to gather. And what other balloons like it may be able to.
I know you are. But the interesting thing here is you had Secretary of State Blinken in this meeting. We covered it here on this show not 2 weeks ago, I think, not even, with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. The idea being that, you know, they want to close. I remember the headline from that was that Secretary Blinken said they wanted to kind of close the chapter of this spy balloon. Feels like this is cracking that chapter book open again, no?
Yes, I mean, it is. And I will say, we had been hearing for a while that it was so difficult to get anyone to talk about the spy balloon. And they always fell back on it's under investigation. Well, now it seems the investigation is either over or nearing its end, but it's still really difficult to find out any details about it. There's a very clear indication that the administration simply does not want to talk about this anymore. They want to move past it. They want to try to do something to repair relations with China. And the reality is, every time this issue comes back up, it's just picking at another scab of this relationship between the U.S. and China.
Courtney Kube live for us at the Pentagon Court. Thank you so much. We've got some more breaking news into us out of Texas here, because just in the last hour or so, we are hearing from Houston officials that a grand jury has decided not to indict the rapper Travis Scott in connection to those deaths at the Astroworld Festival back in fall of 2021. Remember this? Just horrific incident here with these huge crowd of fans. They all started pushing against each other and pushing forward when Travis Scott was on stage. The attorney of a 9-year-old killed in that crowd crush, saying tonight, and I'm quoting here, "There is clear culpability and gross negligent conduct," adding in reaction to this news that though disappointed, the family will continue to wait for their day in court. That little boy, just one of the 10 people you see here on screen, who died. Thousands more people were hurt. Valerie Castro is joining us now. What are officials saying about this decision by this grand jury not to indict? And are we hearing anything from Travis Scott yet or no?
We are, Hallie, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But as you mentioned, this was a devastating event when it happened in 2021. Today, the Houston police chief said after several months, the criminal investigation finally wrapped up last week, and then the case was handed over to that grand jury today. The district attorney announced just a short time ago the grand jury found that no crime occurred. Take a listen to what she had to say just about 10 minutes ago.
Our job is narrow. It's to determine if this tragedy, this absolute disastrous, horrific event involved criminal activity by anyone, at the top, to the bottom, or in between.
Again, the grand jury determining that no crime occurred. If you remember, there were 10 people who died at this concert. The youngest victim was just 9 years old. The rest ranged in age from 14 to 27 years old. A medical examiner determining they all died from compression asphyxia in that crowd crush. More than 2,000 other people needed medical treatment after that concert. Travis Scott's attorney did issue a statement earlier today saying Travis Scott has been inaccurately and wrongly singled out, despite stopping the show 3 separate times and being unaware of the events as they were unfolding. Hallie, that's the latest. We'll send it back to you.
Valerie Castro, thank you so much. Coming up here on the show, some new details tonight around the murders of 2 Indiana girls, how a jailhouse phone call led to a potential confession. Plus, the NFL suspending a couple players indefinitely. We'll tell you why. Late tonight, for the first time, we are hearing from the trans influencer at the center of that whole Bud Light boycott controversy. You remember the company facing huge conservative backlash after a post Dylan Mulvaney put up, showing off a personalized can that Bud Light sent her. You saw people throwing away their cans, steamrolling them, shooting cases of beer, etc. And when the company didn't defend Mulvaney, LGBTQ+ advocates started boycotting Bud too. With Mulvaney, after months of silence, you see her there, saying this tonight.
For a company to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse, in my opinion, than not hiring a trans person at all. What transpired from that video was more bullying and transphobia than I could have ever imagined.
Bud Light has taken a big business hit ever since that promotion for March Madness. Sales are down something like 25% this past month compared to this past year. And for the first time in a couple decades, it's not the best-selling beer in the country anymore. PR and crisis management expert Molly McPherson is joining us now. What do you make of this new Mulvaney video? She is out now. She's saying essentially that she didn't post earlier because she was scared. She was scared of the reaction. She thought maybe the company would reach out. She says that never happened.
Yeah, it's not surprising that someone in the middle of a culture war would be that scared and worried about their safety. But what I found so interesting is that the company never reached out to Dylan Mulvaney, knowing likely that that's what she was experiencing.
What can Bud Light do at this point? We heard from the CEO of Anheuser-Busch just earlier this week, essentially saying they were going to try to help financially some of the wholesalers and distributors who have been hurt because of this boycott and this backlash. If you were advising them, Molly, what would you tell them to do?
Well, what is happening, what Dylan Mulvaney is mentioning is being collateral damage in a culture war. And that's exactly what the CEO of Bud Light wants. He wants to distance the mistakes that they were making and the lack of accountability and make it about a culture war. It's something that's beyond them. If I were advising them, I would say we want to look at a framework that involves being more inclusive. But the trigger point was that I feel like Bud Light, to some people, felt that they were being forced out. The former VP of marketing had said that they didn't want to market to frat boys anymore. Now they need to be more inclusive and perhaps follow like a Chick-fil-A model, where even in their corporate purpose, they talk about God, but they're still quite inclusive in their customer base.
Molly McPherson, thank you so much. It's always good to have you on, especially when there is such a headline like this one. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a judge is releasing new documents about the murder of 2 girls in Delphi, Indiana. It's taking what was once a cold case to now a potential confession. One document describes a jailhouse phone call from the suspect to his wife, where he allegedly admits to killing the girls. The 2 friends, Abby Williams and Libby German, vanished from a hiking trail back in 2017. It took 5 years for an arrest to be made. The suspect's set to face trial next January. Number 2, the woman accused of poisoning her husband and then writing a book about grieving his death is now being sued by his sister. She's looking for more than $13 million for alleged financial wrongdoing. The lawsuit says that the author took money out of her husband's bank accounts, got a fake loan, among other crimes. Corey Richins is also facing a murder charge for allegedly slipping fentanyl into a Moscow Mule she made for her husband. Her lawyer did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Number 3, the NFL is suspending 3 players indefinitely. Why? Because they say they violated the gambling policy for the league. We're talking about 2 players on the Colts and a free agent who were found to have bet on NFL games last season. They're allowed to petition the league to get reinstated, but only after this coming season ends. Number 4, Yankees pitcher Domingo Germán pitched a perfect game against the A's last night. No hits, no walks. They won 11-0 over Oakland. The 24th perfect game in Major League history. The first pitcher to throw one in more than 10 years and the first Dominican-born pitcher ever to do it. Number 5, Pepsi is getting in on the condiment game with a new sauce. It's calling Cola Chup. Did you guess that was Pepsi in ketchup? Well, then you're right. It is ketchup-infused Pepsi or Pepsi-infused ketchup. Whatever. It's stuff that tastes like Pepsi, and you put it on a hot dog, I guess. You can find it at a bunch of Major League stadiums on July 4th. When we come back, I'm going one-on-one. Not about ketchup or Pepsi, but about politics. Back in my wheelhouse, former Congressman Will Hurd is joining us for tonight's Newsmaker. Stick around. So tonight's Newsmaker now, where we go one-on-one with the people making headlines on the issues we are all talking about. And tonight, that is the 2024 race to the White House, which on the Republican side keeps getting bigger, like every week, it seems like, with the latest entrant, former Texas Congressman Will Hurd. Congressman Hurd is joining us now. Congressman, thank you so much for being on your first interview with NBC News since declaring.
No, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be back with you. We used to do this a lot when I was in Congress, so I'm glad I'm back.
I remember those days. Lots to talk about. I am going to talk about policy with you, but I want to start with politics and news of day. And let me start with this news out of the Supreme Court that we led our broadcast with this evening. They're striking down of these affirmative action programs at 2 different schools. I saw the statement that you put out that read in part, with or without affirmative action, we are failing to prepare too many of our black and brown students for higher education. That's the problem. It is not clear to me from your statement whether you agree with what the court did or not. So, Congressman, is this a good day for the country or not?
Well, I think both of these things can be true, that we shouldn't discriminate for any reason, right, which is the decision that the Supreme Court made that was in line with some of their other decisions. But we can also talk about how too many black and brown kids are getting crappy educations that are not preparing them for education. Both of these things can be true at the same time. And the problem we should be focusing on is how do we improve the opportunities for these young kids. Income inequality is because of education inequality, and that's the problem that we should be focused on. What are our governors doing to improve access to education? How are we making schools cheaper? How are we making sure that our high schools there's choice and options for these kids? And so that's something that we should be focusing on, especially now with the need for our kids to be ready for jobs that don't exist today.
I hear you on the two things can be true idea, but let me ask you it this way. Do you support letting schools, colleges, universities use race as a factor in the admissions process?
So the decision that the court came down with, they said that this can be used when talking about their experience that race had. So yes, I agree with that opinion.
Okay. Let me ask you, I was just trying to get you a little bit nailed down on whether you agreed with the opinion or not. Sure. It sounds like you do. And so I want to ask you then about the campaign.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. To the campaign. Fox News has some new polling out today. Let's talk politics here. It shows former President Trump with a 34% lead over Governor Ron DeSantis, who's his next closest opponent. You did not score at all a single point in that survey. Your campaign is only like a week old, so I get that point of it. I've been reading up on you, obviously, and you've been quoted as saying when you ran for Congress that you don't need to think I can win. You just need to think I'm not crazy. So explain to people, why should people now think that your fairly long shot candidacy at the moment is not crazy?
Well, look, the fact that I'm a dark horse candidate, I completely recognize that. And yes, these national polls, are reflective of a snapshot in time. But we should have learned back in 2016 that these national polls aren't necessarily reflective of what's happening at a state level. And they also don't reflect the kinds of people that are coming out to vote. Here's the things that I do know. 6 out of 10 Americans do not want Donald Trump to be president, and 7 out of 10 Americans do not want Joe Biden to be president. Only 23% of Americans vote in primaries because the other 77% are sick and tired of everybody and don't like any of the options that they have. So my long shot candidate, what you want to say is to appeal to those people. And the way do you do that? In a place like New Hampshire, where you can go and they expect you to talk to them, not be crazy, and get out and let them know who you are, you have a chance.
You will not sign a Republican loyalty pledge, meaning you will probably not be on the debate stage because that is one of the requirements that the party has put in place. How do you expect people in New Hampshire, in Iowa, in South Carolina to get to know you if you're not having that? Granted, it's a national platform, but it's a big one. A lot of people watch.
Sure. a lot of people do watch, but it's not the Super Bowl, right? And so how do you get more people to know who you are? You show up. I've just been in the North Country the last couple of days, spending a lot of time on the ground. There's a little thing called a digital media that people pay attention to. You do things like be on the news like we're doing here today. But here's the bottom line. I can't lie to the American people just to get a microphone. And I'm not going to do that. And we shouldn't be comfortable with any of our candidates who are interested in doing something, but they may change their minds later. I'm not going to support somebody like Donald Trump. I spent a decade of my life collecting information, protecting our country, and for someone who's so cavalier with the most important secrets in our country that could get in the wrong hands, could lead to the loss of life, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it, and I'm not going to lie to the American people about in order to be able to get on the debate stage and talk about what I hope that the vision for the future should be.
So if he's convicted of any of the federal charges against him, you won't pardon him?
Would I pardon him? No, like the fact that people even talking about that, it's like, let's get through the case. Like, that's just insane that we're having those kinds of conversations right now. The fact is, we need someone who's not afraid of Donald Trump, but who's also putting forward a vision of the future. And you've talked about in your show today all the challenges that we're facing as a country. We're dealing with generational defining challenges. Those are the things that we should be talking about, not whether or not you should keep documents or lie about keeping documents in your bathroom.
Let me ask you, you talk about the issues facing the country. Some of them are international issues. You are obviously former CIA officer. You uniquely understand the ramifications of international conflicts. There are a number of your Republican colleagues who want to shut off the aid faucet to Ukraine. You have a different perspective. You do not. What don't your Republican colleagues understand, in your view, about this issue?
Well, they lack the experience of understanding second and third order effects. You know, my entire adult life has been involved in national security in some form or fashion. And they also don't understand that the United States of America post-World War II built an international order that benefits us, that has led to the United States of America having a quality of life that is the envy of the world. If we do not protect that, it's going to hurt us. And Ukraine is the perfect example. We should be doubling down in our support to the Ukrainians in order for them to end this war. And when I say end the war, it's not go back to the lines in the territory lines in February. It's go back to the territory lines many years ago before the Russians invading the first time. So we should be helping the Ukrainians push the Russians out of Crimea and all the Donbass.
There's another issue where you do not see eye to eye to some of your Republican colleagues here. You have represented a border state, Texas, obviously. I know that immigration is important to you. There's this new proposal out from one of your competitors, Governor Ron DeSantis. It includes finishing the border wall, potential military action in some instances, bringing back that controversial Remain in Mexico policy. You have ideas that include a long-term plan to streamline legal immigration, to increase deportations, to provide more aid to Latin American countries. In other words, some policies that seem more similar to what a Biden administration might put in place. What makes you think the GOP primary voters are going to side with you in this somewhat less aggressive approach than what we've seen from Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis?
Well, let me start with Joe Biden has done a lot of things wrong on immigration, and you're never going to see a plan come forward from him on streamlining immigration because he had the chance to do this. Look, unfortunately, many of my colleagues, Ron is trying to follow what Donald Trump did, make a lot of promises and not deliver when it comes time. For me, the goal should be achieving operational control of the border. I know how to do it. I represent the largest border in Texas and in Congress. I've been up here in New Hampshire touring the northern border, which is slowly becoming a problem. It's not of the same magnitude that we're seeing in the South, but we have the opportunity to prevent that from happening by working with our folks in Canada. And here's what many of my colleagues or folks in this race don't understand. Every single mile of the border is different from every other one. And you also starts with stop treating everybody that's coming into this country as an asylum seeker. Wanting to come get a better paying job is not a reason for asylum. This is a policy that Joe Biden continued, but it got started under Donald Trump. And so will people here in the Republican Party know? Look, people appreciate honesty. They appreciate real solutions to real problems because everybody understands we're living in complicated times and we need common sense.
Former Texas Congressman Will Hurd, current Republican presidential candidate, thank you very much for being on. Hope to talk with you again soon. Appreciate your time. Coming up here on the show, some new details tonight about possible reparations for Black Californians. We'll tell you what the recommendation is that's out today. Plus, police in Italy say they're a little bit closer to finding that tourist caught carving names into the Colosseum. Come on, guy. What's next in the local? A California task force today presenting its final recommendations to potentially compensate Black people in the state for the harms of slavery. It includes things like approving a state apology for racism, adopting a K-12 Black studies curriculum, banning cash bail, and giving housing grants to formerly redline neighborhoods. You heard a lot of Californians at an open meeting today saying they support this plan. Listen.
Answer my question. What do we want? When? What do we want? When? What do we want? When?
Dana Griffin is joining us now. Dana, we talked through some of what's in this report. We've covered this issue of this reparations discussion happening in California for months now. Bring us up to speed.
So today's meeting, Hallie, was very symbolic. It was sort of a celebratory gathering for people who have, over the last 2 years, devoted time and energy listening to people in California describe some of the harms that they've endured and why they believe reparations are so important. Actually, one Californian who believes they are entitled to reparations had this to say. Listen.
We have been harmed, miserably harmed, hurt. And so we need to get paid now, you know, not wait for years and years and years. We've waited patiently. No more meetings, no more waiting. We need it now.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And the thing is, while this is the last California Reparations Task Force meeting, there's still a long way for this to go. There will be more meetings because you've got not only the Assembly, but also the Senate that will now have to decide what they pick from this report, whether they adopt the recommendations, adjust them, or dismiss them altogether. And then it has to go to the governor to sign, which, Hallie, we haven't really heard much from Governor Gavin Newsom on what he thinks about this report. It pretty much mimics the draft report that we got last month. So it'll be interesting to see who really rallies behind the legislation, potential legislation that could come out.
So get practical, a practical impact. Dollars to humans, right? You know what I mean? Like money to people, if that's going to happen. What would be the timeline of that? Is it realistic?
That is the burning question. You have a lot of critics that say, look, this could cost upwards of $800 billion. California already has a $310 billion budget for next year, and we're also trying to climb out of a $32 billion deficit. So many are wondering, how is California going to pay for it? And that, again, is going to be up to the state to decide if they decide to go with those cash reparations. And it could be several years. You know, the earliest bills could come out, could be August before the session adjourns in September. If not, they'll have to try to introduce something next year, but it could lose steam. And that's kind of the thing that, you know, people don't want to happen who support these measures. So could people get cash reparations? It is still a big question, and we will be watching closely.
Dana Griffin, live for us in California. Dana, thank you for being all over that today. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because you couldn't possibly read or watch or listen to them all, our foreign desk has done it for you. Here's some of what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Take a look at this out of Iraq. Hundreds of people demonstrating today at the Swedish embassy in Baghdad after a man burned a Quran outside a mosque in Stockholm. It's a protest that Swedish police let happen. Several countries, including the U.S., condemned that protest, and Turkey's president suggested it could be a barrier to Sweden joining NATO. Out of Italy, police may be getting closer to tracking down that guy we told you about who was filmed on camera writing on the Colosseum, like carving names into the Colosseum. Today, those police said he's a tourist who lives in Britain, something they figured out by comparing pictures, according to a press release. They didn't list his name, but officials say they're going to find him and they're going to hold him accountable. And out of New Zealand, you know those little plastic bags you might put your fruit and veggies in at the grocery store? New Zealand is now banning them starting this weekend. They say they're the first country to do this. They're also banning plastic straws, banning plastic silverware. They already banned, like, the thicker grocery bags that you take your stuff home in, but now the little produce bags are going to be gone, too. Still to come here on the show, a mission years in the making. What we're learning about Virgin Galactic's first commercial spaceflight next. Virgin Galactic today finally doing what it's been trying to do for almost 20 years and taking paying customers right to the edge of space. Pilots took this team, paid for by the Italian Air Force, you see the flag there, like 50 miles up into the sky. Whole thing took about 90 minutes. Listen to one of the passengers describing it.
From the takeoff to release, it's like a normal airliner. But the 20 minutes after the release was unbelievable. The acceleration, the climb, and suddenly the microgravity.
You can see here what took them up. They got released from this specially designed plane that pulled along their spacecraft until they got to weightlessness. How much would you pay to go weightless, to touch the edge of outer space? Well, how about $250,000 to $450,000? A lot of people want to do it. There's a backlog of something like 800 passengers on this list. Morgan Brennan is joining us now from New Mexico. Talk us through it, because this is a big deal for Virgin Galactic. They're hoping for more. What was it like?
So you just pointed to the space plane. It's actually right behind me here in the hangar. This is VSS Unity. This is the plane that flew to the edge of space earlier today. Major milestone for Virgin Galactic, because this has been 19 years in the making since Sir Richard Branson founded this company. Today represented the first fully commercial revenue-generating space flight for this company. It kicked off what is commercial service now that has been delayed and has been long anticipated. You just mentioned it. There's an 800-person backlog. This first mission, a lot of their business is focused on space tourism, but they also have this bucket that is focused on research and government. And today's first commercial mission was really focused on that second bucket, with 3 paying passengers tied to the Italian Air Force, who went up to the edge of space. 53 miles was the altitude, so just past the edge of where the U.S. defines the start of space, for about 4 minutes of weightlessness, where they conducted a flurry of scientific experiments and did research before then strapping back in inside the space plane, gliding back down and landing on the runway. So this was a milestone for the company. It's also a milestone for this new era of commercial human spaceflight.
Talk about that. Talk about this so-called space race, the idea that this kind of like space tourism is starting to, truly no pun intended, take off. And also about, like, you know, the safety procedures in place, any potential risks here.
So, I mean, there's always a risk with flying to space, right? But the company has spent a lot of time and a lot of money working on those safety aspects. There is a multi-day training process that future astronauts go through before they actually take this trip. There have been redesigns, there have been updates and refurbishments to the spacecraft and its mothership as well. And this is something I actually asked CEO Michael Colglazier about in an exclusive interview earlier today, because for clear and obvious reasons, given what we've seen unfold with this tragedy around that submersible tied to the Titanic last week, this idea of so-called adventure travel, including space flight, has been under a lot more scrutiny. And he basically said, look, we're building on 6 decades of human space flight, and we are regulated. The FAA, officials from the FAA were here for the space flight today. There's a very, very strong emphasis on that safety. They haven't seen any impact to demand in terms of that customer base in the past few weeks either.
Morgan Brennan, it is fascinating. Thank you for being there from the launch site live for us tonight. Really appreciate it. That does it for us for this hour and for the one before it. As always, it is good to see you. I'll see you back here after the holiday. More to come on NBC News Now, a top story picking up our coverage.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.